I got my coffee right here. I'm starting a long form writing group this year, and I think you should too. I'm doing a couch video again because you guys really seem to like my couch videos, but since I'm not currently at my place for college, I am using my mom's couch. For those of you who don't know, let me explain what a long form writing group is and why I think you should start one this year. In my past video, The Secret to Writing a Novel and Other Long Form Works, I talked about this point, but it wasn't the whole point of the video. I decided to go in more detail with what writing workshops are, and specifically long form workshops. I love coffee. In college, I joined a creative writing workshop for playwriting, specifically my freshman year, and I wrote half a play in that class because we had a workshop every week. And it was so helpful because it held me accountable to write 5 pages a week. And by the end of the semester, I had written half of the play and decided to finish it during the rest of the year, the summer and the beginning of my sophomore year. That play is not published or anything, but it's sitting in my docs and it's 80 pages long, and plays are typically 80 to 110 pages on average. But when I was in that workshop class, I wrote so much, more than I had ever written before in my life. So the following year, I decided to join a creative writing workshop for general creative writing. So it was poetry, plays, 10-minute plays, short stories, stuff like that. And it was also really fun, and you got to work with a lot of different people from all areas of writing. And I loved that, so I decided to join a short story workshop after that class and work on my short stories, because I'm typically more of a poetry long form person, which is kind of weird because I feel like poetry is so short and the long form is so long, but it was a lot of fun writing short stories. But after those classes end, the professor that I did those workshops with, he retired. So I was really bummed because I really wanted to do more workshops with him. So I thought, I'll start a workshop with my friends. So after those creative writing workshop classes finished, my friend and I decided we were going to try to workshop each other's stories outside of class, and we made our own creative writing workshop at our university as a club. And it started off with about 4 people, but then we tried to carry it on into the next year and people graduated. There wasn't enough new interest, so this year I wanted to start my own outside of school. Just find writers from all over who want to write long form, who have already written long form, who say they do, but they never finish their long form. Am I talking about you? It used to be me too. But after doing a creative writing workshop last year, I finished the first draft of my novel, and I'm covering the title because I don't want to share it yet. I'm very, very proud of this. This is a first draft, so I'm going to work on it this year, but I don't want this to be my whole thing I'm working on the writing workshop. This is going to be my side project, editing this. I want to keep writing new things. I have plays in mind, play adaptations, musicals. I have other novels and stories that I want to write, movie scripts, and I just don't write them because I'm busy and I make excuses. Letting the dogs stop barking. Yes, having a writing group means that you have people to hold you accountable. I mean, they're more likely to hold you accountable because they're also holding themselves accountable. But a writing group is also really helpful when it comes to getting constructive criticism or writing critiques. And if you're making your own personal writing group, chances are those people are going to be friends or acquaintances. And those friends and acquaintances won't be mean to you, but they'll give you the truth. They want you to grow as a writer, so they'll tell you what they like and what they don't like. They'll tell you what they're confused about, what theories they have, ideas, what characters are their favorites and why. And that information is so useful. And having just a small pocket of people giving you different perspectives as you work in live time on your longer work is so helpful. I'm going to use this as an example. I was working on this, and I was doing a chapter, getting it workshopped, then doing the next chapter, getting it workshopped, and I had an outline. I had this outline for like 8 months. So I knew the plot points, I knew how it was going to end, all this stuff, but I had to really flesh it out because I only had the bare bones structure, the skeleton of the story. And as I was writing, I'd show a chapter and people would get theories about things where I'm like, I don't want them to think that. I don't like that they're assuming that. That's going to lead them in the wrong direction. That's an unintentional red herring. I need to fix that. Or they'd really like a character that I didn't really think much about or wasn't going to include again. But because several people like that character so much, I thought, I'm not done with this book yet. I'm going to put that character in. And it's so helpful when you're live time writing it, because once you've finished your first draft, and if somebody's like, I like this character way better than your main character, then you've already written the whole story. You got to rewrite everything. It's so complicated. But if you're writing it in real time, you catch those things earlier. With this story, I was very, very happy because people really liked the main characters a lot. But there's also some side characters that they really enjoyed too that I wasn't going to include much. And I felt guilty because so many people like the side characters. So I found ways to make them recurring, even if they weren't the main plot of the book. I thought, hey, they can have that role. Or I was going to give this job to that person, but they can do that job too. And it just really helped me while writing my characters. It was also giving me ideas for writing sequels because I think originally writing this book, I wanted it to be a standalone. But as I continued writing it, people liked the characters so much, they were asking me to make a sequel or to make a trilogy. I would never write more than a trilogy just because I'm not a huge fan of like long series. It made me inspired for maybe plotting out a sequel where if you're writing a book where you think you want to have a series or a future book or a future few books and you notice certain characters are liked, or maybe some people think this character is shady, this character has a dark past, but you didn't intend for that character to have a dark past. But since everyone reading it assumes that you did, you decide, sure, they have a dark past, time for the sequel. They always say the English teacher thing, like, oh my, your English teacher will say, look at the curtains, they're red. Why? Because of the foreshadowing of the bloodshed and Macbeth, stuff like that. But sometimes it's helpful when your friends or your writing buddies go English teacher mode on you because they're giving you ideas that weren't even there. It shows also that you wrote it in a way where there's themes popping out and people are catching on to those themes. And it's reassuring to know that your themes are coming across. So how do you realistically accomplish consistently meeting with a long form writing group? I mean, people are busy. They're in college, they have jobs, maybe you're in different time zones. How do you realistically keep doing it, you know? One thing I like to say is people in January come up with all these resolutions and they never do them, and then they blame the whole New Year's resolutions don't work. New Year's blah, blah, blah. I did 5 out of my 6 resolutions last year. I did 4 out of my 6 the previous year. And you know why I've gotten good at keeping my resolutions? And they were pretty hefty resolutions. It's because you have to be realistic for yourself. You can't just say, I'm going to work out every day when you've never gone to the gym in your life. Say I'm going to work out once a month. That's realistic. And then when you complete it, the next year, you want to push yourself more. 2 years ago, I said, I want to finish a play that I started in my playwriting shop class. And I did, because that was 40 pages, which was a lot for me at the time, but I did it. The next year I said, I want to write a whole novel. I wrote 140 pages. It's almost 80,000 words last year. Completed that resolution. This year, I'm going to write 2 long form works. That's my resolution. Do what's realistic for you. Maybe it's not realistic to meet once a week or every other week. For us, several people in the class are in university. Several have graduated and have full-time jobs. Some have moved away, so there's different time zones. So we're going to try to meet once a month at the end of the month. We can text in the meantime, email in the meantime. But that way we all have to have our work ready to talk about and critique and read by the end of the month. I'll be writing a play is what I'm thinking, and then maybe a novel or a screenplay after that. But I definitely want to do a play because I'm a theater major and I have had this play idea in mind for a while, and I was talking to a theater house and they would be interested in using my script and like paying me for it if I wrote what I was talking about because it was catered to what they wanted for their next season of shows. And since I want to be a playwright as a living, I'm going to write it. My first ever play adaptation that's actually people are going to pay to watch it is going to be shown in April of this year, which is really crazy. I co-wrote it with a professor, but I want to write my first adaptation that is written by myself. So that's my project for this year. So if you've been thinking, I really want to write more, but I just don't know if I can be dedicated, just try to find a few friends, try to meet maybe once a month. And maybe you're not ready to write a full long form work, but maybe you could say, hey, I want to write a first draft. Hey, I want to write half of one, and do what's realistic for you because everyone's in different stages of life and that is completely fine. So what's that story that's been sitting in your Google Docs for so long in your notes app? Take it because you never know what that story might do to people that read it. It could change lives, it could inspire, and there's just so much work out there right now that it's just reproduced remakes and sequels. And sometimes sequels are good, sometimes remakes are good, but sometimes the world needs an original story. What's your story? What's that adaptation that you want to make that you're like, why does no one have a movie about this book. This book is amazing. Why does nobody have a book about this topic or set in this location? What is it that you want to bring to the table? And maybe it's something that is popular, but no one's ever heard it in your words before. So write that thing that you've been wanting to write. It's a new year, and I'd love to know what your ideas are, what your plans are. Leave them in the comments below. If you don't want to share your ideas, share what your favorite part about writing is, or what your favorite form of writing is. And if you want more videos, if you want progress updates on our writing group, or if you want other writing related videos, let me know. I'm also joining a new writing workshop at school this year for travel writing, so there's going to be some travel related videos. I have not traveled anywhere outside of California in 7 years, unless you count Nevada. Yeah, so stay tuned for that. And I'll see you guys soon. Happy New Year, and get writing. Get writing. And look at this cup. It's Jane Austen. I got for Christmas. Their dresses change in the heat. Isn't that so fun?